Morning guys, the Blogging Buddhist here, and today I want to talk to you about COVID-19 and vaccination as it relates to type 1 diabetes. But before I do that, be sure to click follow and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, so that you can be part of my channel and be updated at any time that I post new content. And if you enjoyed the content and found it informative, do me a solid and hit that like button. Costs you nothing but goes a long way towards helping me and my channel. Okay, now that the rant is over, let's get into the thick of it. So before I get into the actual post, I just want to mention that I'm not a doctor, I'm not a trained health professional. Everything that I'm providing in this video is based on my personal experience and research that I've done myself at the home level, okay? And in some conversations with my pharmacist and my doctor, but take what you're going to hear with a grain of salt, because every person's body is different and can react differently. So my only goal here is to share my experience and to share my information so that you guys can take steps towards making an informed decision. Last week I got my first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. I did this through my pharmacy. I had to complete kind of an application form before I actually got the vaccine, and one of the things that I had clarified and indicated was that I was type 1 diabetic, which they confirmed at the time of injection. Now, once I got injected, I made sure to ask, like, is there anything I should know about for follow-up? Any foods or drinks I should be avoiding? Should I be avoiding alcohol? Can I still work out? Like, is there going to be any noticeable side effects that I should be aware of? First of all, there was nothing that I was told to avoid, other than the fact that perhaps I'd be a little bit dehydrated and would want to take in more fluids. However, the next morning when I woke up from getting vaccinated, I felt like a piece of crap. Essentially, I was just bogged down with flu-like symptoms. But the big problem was actually what had occurred the night before. Roughly an hour after getting the vaccine, my blood sugar spiked. Specifically, they spiked to about 21.3, which for any of you non-diabetics who are watching right now, that's a critically high level where you potentially start slipping into ketoacidosis and a bunch of other diabetic-related complications and concerns. I didn't put two and two together right away, but I would have to say that if it's not related to the vaccine, then it's pretty coincidental. Now, I did some research and I looked into it, and there's nothing the vaccine contains that does inherently affect blood sugars. So, like, for example, my first thought was, well, what if one of the ingredients to this vaccine is glucose? Which would have seemed pretty ridiculous, since they knowingly gave that vaccine to a type 1 diabetic. But from what I've been able to find and read online, none of the vaccines have glucose as an ingredient. But, however, it's important to note that any vaccination that you get, COVID aside, any vaccination that you get, any new medications, any new anything new that you introduce to your body can affect your blood sugar in a variety of different ways. And like I said earlier, every diabetic person is different, so it's very, very important to monitor your blood sugars as often as possible. Now, the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation has a really good page about type 1 diabetes and coronavirus. So if you go on jdrf.ca and you search for COVID-19 or coronavirus, you will get a whole bunch of stuff. They do provide you with a rundown about what the virus actually is. They provide you with a bunch of information about what you should stock in terms of supplies, specifically for diabetics, some of the things that you might have to deal with, what some of the symptoms are for COVID. One thing that I do like that the article points out, and I'm going to make a point of pointing it out, is that having type 1 diabetes does not make you more susceptible to developing COVID-19. This is important because, as anyone with type 1 diabetes should know, our immune systems aren't the best. I mean, our own immune system is attacking our insulin-producing beta cells. That's what causes type 1 diabetes. So we already don't have a champion of immune systems to start with. So, you know, we're susceptible to catching things more easily normally than a non-diabetic person would, depending on their immune system. But I do like that they point this out, because this has been a concern for me since this whole thing started. They do point out that you should monitor your blood glucose and your ketones more than usual. So obviously when you get sick, being sick in general will affect your blood sugars. That's universal. So you want to make sure that you're testing your blood regularly. You know, stick to your normal medication schedule. They do point out, stock your cabinets with items that will help you keep up your carbohydrate intake in a healthy way. So you want to make sure that even if you are feeling ill or you're down a little bit, that you're not just slumped on the couch with your bag of nachos and wolfing down. You want to make sure that you've got, you know, stuff like unsweetened applesauce, fruit flavored yogurts, noodle soups, crackers, mild foods that aren't too difficult to swallow. These are all things that are on this webpage. Like, I'm not going to go through all of them, just making sure that I'm covering off some of the bases. You want to make sure that you stay hydrated, so obviously up your water intake, make sure that you're staying well hydrated and stuff, and just be ready that you may not feel well after you've taken your vaccine dose, if you haven't done so already. And like I said, it affects different people in different ways. For me, it made me feel ill. Hitting the low 20s was not good. It took all of about 4 or 5 hours of, you know, despite the CGM and the pump, I still tested my blood via finger poke every hour. I bolused in accordance with the amount or the blood sugar level that I was still at. So it took a few hours, but I slowly brought my blood sugar down, because what you don't want to do is give yourself a massive dose of insulin and just have your blood sugar drop down, because now you're facing the opposite effect and you may bottom out. So you want to make sure that you're lowering that blood sugar slowly. In terms of the actual vaccines, diatribe.org, so that's diatribe.org, has a really good page as well entitled What You Should Know About COVID-19 Vaccines and Diabetes. And they do cover off a lot of topics here, so I'm just going to scroll down to a section that says, is the vaccine safe for people with diabetes? And it does say that all 3 currently authorized vaccines, Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna, the 3 different types of authorized vaccines, so Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, appear to be safe and effective for adults with diabetes. Rigorous clinical trials tested the safety of these vaccines in adults of all ages, races, and ethnicities, as well as chronic health conditions. So the Pfizer trial did include 3,150 people with diabetes, and it goes on to the other ones. I'm just focusing on Pfizer because that's the one that I got. It points out that it doesn't matter which of the 3 vaccines you got. And so okay. So it does point out that similar to getting the flu shot, that people with diabetes should monitor their blood sugar levels and have a sick day management plan ready. And according to the CDC, some of the common side effects can be pain, swelling, or redness in the vaccinated arm. I think that's normal. I think everybody understands that. But you may get fever, chills, fatigue, headache, nausea, and muscle pain. And in all honesty, I've pretty much got all of those except the fever. So those are just side effects that are a result of your immune system preparing to combat any potential future viral infection, which is how a vaccine works. Under a heading that says, how will the vaccine affect my blood sugar levels? It does say, because the vaccine can cause symptoms of illness, this can lead to high blood glucose levels, which is what I experienced. It's important to carefully monitor your blood sugar levels for 48 hours after you receive your vaccination. Stay hydrated and make sure to have your sick plan ready in case you feel ill. But in terms of everything else, it doesn't. Diabetes medication doesn't affect the vaccine, and there's nothing really showing that the vaccine will affect, say, your insulin absorption or anything of that sort. So it should be pretty safe to take. You just want to be careful about how you go about it and to monitor yourself safely. So all that being said, I'm not here to advocate or to speak against vaccines. I think it's a personal choice. I chose to take it just because I am the member of the household who is out of the house the most often, doing groceries, being among the public, things like that. So I think it's important in order for me to protect myself and my family, and because I have a bit of a pushed immune system. But a comment that a friend of mine had made is that seems to be the trend right now, is everyone's asking, so did you get your vaccine yet? And that's kind of a personal question. That's a personal medical question, and it's a personal choice. So, when people are asking you this stuff, don't be afraid to say, you know what, I'm not comfortable talking about it, or I don't want to answer that. Like, it's your choice. Like every other situation out there, you're going to get anti-vaxxers and naysayers that are going to try to tell you shouldn't have gotten vaccinated, you shouldn't have done. It's the same thing as with everything else. You're going to get two sides of the coin, so make sure that the choice you make is a choice that's right for you. And while you're making that choice, monitor your blood sugars, stay hydrated, and make sure that you're taking all the preventative steps you can to prevent diabetes complications. There you go, folks. That's my rant for the weekend. Thanks for watching. Make sure you pop in and visit my actual website with my daily blog at www.thebloggingbuddhist.com for daily content on diabetes, health and fitness, martial arts, and Buddhism. Have a good day.